if your kid feels loved, that is a lifeline. That brings your kid back to the table. That usually makes them not go away from the table. Very often, once one parent doesn't have that koach so much, so then the other one usually does. Rarely is it that both don't have that koach so much, but the kid needs to feel loved. All the other problems that the kid endures growing up is like, a temporary issue. It's like a hiccup, bump on the road. If he feels loved, he comes back to the table immediately.
Baruchim Abim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program with special guests. We have with us Rabbi Yisrael Kaikov. Baruch haba, Rabbi. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, how are you?
Amazing, phenomenal, great. Always good to have you at the Chazaq headquarters. And we're going to be speaking about why is my kid struggling. But before we do that topic, we get a little bit of background about the Rabbi and the great work you are involved with.
So first of all, thank you very much for having me here.
Of course.
And Be'ezrat Hashem, we hope this will be very successful. Okay. I'm actually happy that I'm coming out of the class. I'm wiped out. So this is going to come from the heart.
The and things that come out of the heart enter the heart.
Yes. So about myself. So my parents, they left Uzbekistan in the 70s. My father went to Eretz Yisrael in 73. My mother, I think through Italy, came to America in 79. 2 different cities, Samarkand, Tashkent. And they got married here. My father came from a very traditional home. And my mother's from Tashkent, the city, so it's different over there. And so I was born first. And although I went first to some sort of a Kirov Yeshiva for pre-1A, I somehow ended up in public school for first and second grade.
Oh, wow. I didn't know this.
And it's actually very interesting because we're talking about the 80s. And I remember that Shabbat was very serious for me and my family. I had a cap in my bag. I would put my cap first, whatever, and kashrus. I couldn't touch any of the food. So it was very sort of like Yosef and Mitzrayim a little bit.
Interesting.
This is with the 80s where like all my cousins and second cousins and third cousins were all like Michalel Shabbat because they didn't come from such a strong home.
They didn't know any better.
Yeah. So I was like living 2-3 worlds at the same time in a way, and climbed the ladder. Baruch Hashem. My parents put me in Hawk.
Academy of West Queens
for third, fourth, fifth grade, and slowly went up, climbed the ladder, and I ended up at Rabbi Kashani for a year. Alav Shalom.
Yeah.
So that was 6th grade, and so to make a long story short, the big turning point, I guess, was Rabbi Chaimov's yeshiva, and that's where I was introduced to. Aside from the fact that kashrus and Shabbat was all from the house, thanks to my father. But concepts like Avat Hashem, Yirat Hashem, Bitul Torah, loving God, fearing God, wasting time, not learning Torah, all these concepts were first introduced to me by Rabbi Chaimov. So that was that. And I guess I became more aligned with the yeshiva system and ended up in the Mir Yeshiva, graduated high school there. I learned there for 10 years in Kollel, thanks to my wife, entirely. And so then I taught Jewish history for 7 years in Tiferes Elimelech in Borough Park. Eventually made my way back to Queens in Shari Tzion, our community yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, for like 13, 14 years or so. I taught 2nd grade for 6 years and 8th grade now for like 7-8 years. So that's...
And I can testify, seeing the 8th graders, Baruch Hashem, they're always glued and connected with Rabbi Kaikov. Rabbi Kaikov also runs a summer camp at our Kehillah.
Thanks to you.
Baruch Hashem, Chazaq Hashem, and the boys are steiging and learning in the summer.
Yes.
It's an amazing thing, Baruch Hashem. Yaglid Torah v'yadir, and he's doing many other great things. So we're going to jump to the topic of why is my kid struggling. So, Rabbi, what would you say that some of the challenges that we have today facing our children?
So, this is a very big question. So I'm just telling you my vantage point, what I see. Could be I'm sure there's other answers too, and maybe even I'm wrong. I don't know, but to my opinion, I see a big difference because I saw the transition of the iPhone generation come in. Children who their mother specifically and father didn't have a smartphone, and then slowly as the years went on to when they did have a smartphone, what that did. So that's something that was a huge thing.
Big challenge.
Yeah, every generation has that. The Rambam writes that a woman should go outside at least once a month. Let her go outside once a month, and that was 800 years ago. Today it's very normal, obviously, and people learn to work with it. As I mentioned earlier, 25 years ago, Bet Shemesh had a problem with kids going off the derech from religious homes, and now it's much less of a problem because as you learn to cope with the issue, you learn techniques around it. So there's, it's not intrinsically wrong, but actually, in actuality, at the end of the day, it's something that you have to work with. I feel that kids today, they don't have their parents as much as they did because parents are busy working on their phones.
Or working in general. I know parents have 1-2
But now we learned how to work with somewhat. That took many years. That was a few decades. Fine. Then there is this whole thing with the phone.
Right.
Specifically a mother. That's a big thing. And homes start off on this wrong foot. It's not like many homes after 10, 15 years. Rabbi Label Lamb told me once that if you work very hard in the beginning, so everyone follows like the first caboose in a train. So if you work your system properly and you are involved, but maybe a little bit less, the home will go the right direction usually. But to start off the home on the wrong foot, so that's a very big problem. So that's a very big problem. And that's something we're having today in this generation for the first time, obviously, because this whole thing with the phones
just came out, right?
Yeah, relatively, of course. So that's one thing.
That's one of the main challenges that the rabbi.
Yeah.
What would you say is a solution to this massive challenge? And it's not just the phone, because the phone includes in it the browsing and the social media people have, and it's just like a massive amount of content on one device.
So usually the answer to every problem, like what do we do with this problem? Any problem you say, the first answer, I would say 90% of the time, is acknowledgement. If we acknowledge that that's an issue,
You have to realize.
so that's a huge already ravach. You have this in many different areas. Touching upon chinuch in different areas, you'll have sometimes, let's say, parents that are more modern end up with more successful kids. Parents that are very, very strong in religion. So one of the reasons is there's a clear acknowledgement by the modern parents that we don't know. It's not our field, the Torah field, and so that's sort of the kid doesn't feel, I guess, justified in the wrong way. But whenever there are parents that think that what they're doing is right because they know, they understand, they're in the system, they've been through the system, they are authority themselves, which is very, very scary. So that is a massive problem. So it's easier to acknowledge whenever you're ignorant. When you're ignorant of the issue, so then you can acknowledge. If I go to the dentist and he tells me something, I'm totally ignorant, so I'll acknowledge. I don't know. I make myself like nothing. But once I'm going to be like, I'm a little bit of authority also. So that's a problem. People stick to their guns. So acknowledge is number one. Even if you don't succeed to get to 2, 3, and 4, whatever it is, you give a chance to the kid to make it. He'll find information out there, and there are people out there who have good advice. But you didn't close the door to your kid. You left the door open. Don't stick to your guns. You have this a lot of times with Bali Tshuva, that the first kids end up a certain strong way, and later on weaker. One of the reasons is because in the very beginning, there's very like, I know nothing. I'm not an authority. I'm nobody. And they're trying to learn and drink and the proper direction. So the kids saw that. So the kids sort of went that way also, that humble way also. But later on, whenever there's strong, authority, as if to say, so then later kids, suffer from that.
I read or heard somewhere one time about chinuch is that it's important when your child asks for something, you should ask him, what's your advice? What do you think? Give him that opportunity to also have, quote unquote, a say in the matter, whatever it may be. I want more candy. Like, what do you think about having more candy? Is it good for your teeth? It makes you wild? Is it help? Let him be part of the decision making. You ever heard of that concept?
So I heard of the concept. It's a little bit dangerous because the message for that advice will accidentally be like, it will make him feel he's a little bit of authority, which is very dangerous. The idea actually it's sort of manipulating the situation where you have his avenue open right now. So you pull him to the table, and when he's in, if you have proper authority, you sort of put him on track properly. Because if he's not in, you're talking on deaf ears. You're just talking with amazing advice, and he hears absolutely nothing. So once he comes in, he's, I think this, I think that. So make him feel like he's somebody. Everyone has to feel like somebody, everybody. So when you make him feel like somebody, so if it's just a matter of, letting him decide and that's where it ends and hearing him out, and people do say that, by the way. So it's not a good idea in that case.
So there's also the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Almighty himself, when it came to creating man, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. In the sense that Chachamim tell us what he got advice from the angels, the Malachim. So over here, it's like putting them involved with the conversation. Not that they should make the final decision of doing X, Y, and Z. It's a discussion.
I think Rashi says that the Torah teaches derech eretz, proper what's the word, manners, I guess you could call it. If you're a boss, so to speak, like Hashem's the boss, so he spoke to the Malachim, to the ones that were under him, right? So teaching us, he didn't need it. It's to teach us derech eretz. Your business will go smoothly. It's sort of like, if you think about it, it's more like there's a deficiency in the people that work there, that they're going to be offended, and you're gonna take it the wrong way, and ultimately it's gonna mess up your whatever business you have or whatever you're doing. So to keep proper, healthy feelings, do that. Meaning, if that wasn't an issue, then you don't need to do that.
Right. I hear. So the first advice the rabbi says is that people need to recognize that there is an issue with regards to the phone. Acknowledgement.
There's a problem with the phone. Now, if you really acknowledge it enough, you're going to start taking steps. Turn it off at certain hours. That's probably a very smart thing to do. Have a phone diet. Turn it off for a couple of hours. By the way, in 8th grade, you could imagine, me, my students will be listening to this probably to some degree. We'll say, there goes Rebbe again with the phones, But the phone issue with the kid is a different issue than the phone issue with the parents. So I just want to tell the boys that
shout out to Yeshiva Shari Tzion boys.
That this is actually working for you this time. We're going to get your parents to turn off their phones, so spend more time with you. So this time it's for you. So I'm hoping to get cheered, to get cheered on this time.
I love the line: disconnect to connect.
Very good.
Put away the phone so that you can connect with the children, with the family, and
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
But very often people will say that. Let's say they don't connect. The parents, they'll do something else. Who knows what? There is a feeling by the kid, and anyone has this, where it's not just you're not giving me attention. That other device became your, focus. But if it's because of something else, I don't know, you're cleaning up, something that's more regular, so it bothers the kid less. So it's not, even if the kid doesn't get the attention, right? Like disconnect, just another line, disconnect, like to show the kid I'm not connecting with something else. That's also a gain.
Right. Very powerful. So how do you take this advice and channel it to the individual child?
Meaning,
there's the overall picture. Okay, yeah. Mommy or daddy, whatever it is, put away the phone. That's amazing. That's phenomenal. That's great. Yeah. But how does one focus with that? Like the title is struggling. Why is my kid struggling? So your answer, in a sense, is that it's because
that's one reason.
That's one reason.
Other reasons too.
Right. So what would be a technique to help a child that is struggling? Is there any tips that the rabbi has over the years that you've been dealing with so many children and families, your own family?
So I guess the most powerful thing in chinuch, which all the hundreds of books out there zoom down, to the following.
The bottom line, zero in.
If your kid feels loved, that is a lifeline. That brings your kid back to the table. That usually makes them not go away from the table. Very often, one parent doesn't have that koach so much, so then the other one usually does. Rarely is it that both don't have that koach so much, but the kid needs to feel loved. When the kid feels loved, so all the other problems that that the kid endures growing up is like, a temporary issue. It's like a hiccup, bump on the road. But if he feels loved, he comes back to the table immediately. So that's now how this and that, nobody. A couple of years ago, I was the principal in Mir Yeshiva High School, and different communities have different struggles. And one thing in the yeshivish circles is smoking for high school kids. In our circle, it's not such a problem. There's a whole, philosophy why. You can speak about that also if you want, which will definitely explain a lot. But there's a smoking issue. So I went over to one boy in 11th grade. I'm like, if you knew your mother was crying that you're smoking, would you smoke? He's like, my mother's not crying. We spoke about it. Now, by the Ashkenazim approach is more, I guess, more American maybe. If there's an issue with the kid, you sit down and talk. Why is this so? Why is this that? So that's how the parents, that was the approach of the parents. But now the kid's left thinking that it's not so bad. My parents spoke to me about it, explained to me whatever, and it was time. So I said, well, maybe she just wants to be nice to you. But really, if you pass by her bedroom and you put your ear, you heard one time your mother crying, and because you're smoking. Let's say you saw that. You're surprised. Would you stop smoking? He was surprised himself when he answered back, yeah, I would. And he couldn't believe the answer. He said, I would stop smoking. So, because, he loves his mother. So over there was love. Baruch Hashem, the parents put love over there. But the parents also showed a little bit like, he translated, it's an option. Just, it's not ideal. If you really knew that it's a problem, he wouldn't smoke. I had that myself, actually, when I was in yeshiva, in the mirror. So someone offered me a chassan cigarette. When someone becomes a chatan, gets married. So the custom in yeshiva sometimes they give out cigarettes. I never knew this. I'm like, you serious? Like all good boys. What in the world? I couldn't believe this. So after this happened 2-3 times, I'm like, I was an older bacher, but imagine I get stuck on this. And I thought, like, my mother, how would she deal with it in her heart? I can't do this to her. It's going to break her heart. I can't do this to her. So that's the reason I never again. And that was that. So if parents show
infusing love.
Yeah, if you show, even if you think your kids don't like it, give them a hug and a kiss, and they say no. If you show that you're crazy about your kid, you could fail here and there. You get upset, you yell, but that doesn't mean that overall, it shows a message.
100%.
It shows a message.
Infused love, ahava. Rashid, the root of the word is hav, le'avi. The more you give to the children, and you're there for the children, giving of time, putting away the self, and like the rabbi said, focusing your energies and you're channeling your energies into the children will have a massive, massive effect. We have a minhag, we have a custom, and Chazaq Torah Talks is a final message for our broad audience, Rabbi Kaikov.
So, if I had to pick a final message, it would be the love thing. Definitely, that's I guess you could put that into a final message also. But children see the priorities, and whenever they see, I mean, when I was a little boy, my father was in the Israeli army, so if we were driving in a car and my parents listening to the news, I'm sure you could relate to this also. I'm just guessing because I know your parents also from Eretz Yisrael. So if they be talking about a war in Eretz Yisrael, no one spoke in the car. My father would be like, don't talk right away. Like there's, they're talking about the war or something. Because that was like, we knew once he would say, in Israel, whatever it is, the car would just get silent instantaneously. Because that was a priority. So there are different priorities. One of my favorite stories, speaks volumes, is that there was this father that flew with his son to England to take him to some yeshiva over there, maybe Gateshead, whatever it is. And he plugs him in, goes to the office, and he's happy, he says goodbye to his son, flies back to New York. He realized when he flew back to New York that he has the talit, of his son. They're Yeki, they're German Jews. So he was, he's very attached to that minhag, to that custom. By the airport, he gets another flight back to England, flies back to England. Okay, you can imagine, it's 5-6 hour flight, flies back to England, gets to his son's dorm, his son sees him like 10, 15 hours later. It's like, what happened? He said, you forgot your talit in my bag. So the son says, but you could have just bought me one here. It would have costed cheaper. And, he said, if I would have done that, there's a big chance that this minhag in our family could have just stopped. I guarantee you, this minhag for hundreds of years will never stop in our family. Because the Meshuggah father flew back to England with this. What level of priority? It has to be real. The father really felt it. So believe you me, this boy, this bacher, he'll be wearing his talit, and his boys will be wearing their talit, and his grandsons will be wearing their talit also. So whenever you show what's really important to you, even if you mess up in the transmission of it, and you slip here and there, but you show that's aching you in your heart, that's of utmost importance to you, right? The message will be delivered, and you will mamash succeed.
Chazaq, Rabbi Kaikov, Rabbi Yisrael Kaikov. Why our kids are struggling. Bezat Hashem, give the Rabbi Birkat Yod to continue spreading the Torah and giving chizuk to all these amazing children. And Bezat we should only hear B'Sarot Tova. I want to remind everyone every single Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Chazaq Torah Talks with special guest CHAZAQ .org/live, chazaq.org/live. Special thank you to the various different platforms that host Chazaq Torah Talks, with a special shout out to our friends at Torah Anytime Mishpacha. Your brother-in-law, right,
Yes,
Ruben?
yes.
Baruch Hashem, Chazeh Hashem. And a special thank you to Daily Giving. $1 a day goes very, very far away. We encourage everyone to check that out as well, dailygiving.org. Special thank you to Nathan Bihar behind the camera. Our media director does an amazing job. We want to remind everyone, this is the season, this is the time. Chazaq, massive campaign. Baruch Hashem, over 1,800 neshemot have already been transferred from public schools to Jewish day schools. Baruch Hashem, thousands of more kids have been coming to our after-school programs, Sunday school programs, about 20 different locations, Teens Division programming, our youth center. So much amazing things are happening, but it's just the beginning. We want to do a lot more, and we need your support. We need everyone to get involved. Please be part of the Chazaq revolution. Become a team leader. Donate, contribute, share, spread the word. We should all be zochem. We should all merit to see the Geulah Shlema, the complete redemption come in Merab Beinu Svin days. Amen. Thank you very much. Shkoch Chazaq. Very well said.